Our next story is about the war in Ukraine. 2 years and counting. How and when will this war end? Can India be the peace broker? We ask because Ukraine is having a big change of heart. It is reaching out to India. After all the criticism, all the emotional outbursts, Kiev now wants India's help. On Wednesday, President Zelensky spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister agreed to support all peace efforts. He also promised more humanitarian aid. Zelensky, though, had a lot more to say. He invited India to the Switzerland Peace Summit. It's all the hype now. Switzerland is hosting a special summit for Ukraine. We do not have a date yet, but it could happen this summer. And who's invited? On paper, everyone is invited. Switzerland has asked all United Nations members to attend this summit. But let's face it, not everyone will attend. So Zelensky reached out to India. He says it's important that New Delhi attends this summit, and it's clear why. India has very close relations with Russia. So Zelensky is hoping that India will use that influence, maybe nudge Russia towards a ceasefire. But here's a bigger question. Will Russia attend the talks in Switzerland? All indications are that they will not. For starters, Moscow doesn't like what's on the table. The Swiss summit is built around Zelensky's peace plan. And that involves a Russian withdrawal. It's a non-starter for Putin. Secondly, Moscow does not like the host. Their foreign minister says he does not rely on Swiss services. He says Switzerland is not neutral anymore. And that's a problem. So what's the point of having a peace summit without Russia? You can imagine how it will go. All Western allies will sit at a table, they will pat each other on the back, agree to support Ukraine, criticize Russia, and job done. But what will it change on the ground? Absolutely nothing. And Ukraine knows this. They've seen how Western support is weakening, how military aid is drying up, and at the same time, how Russia is stepping up things. Vladimir Putin has just won an election. He's starting his new term with more attacks. On Thursday, Russia fired a barrage of missiles at Kiev. It was the largest attack in weeks. Around 17 people were injured. Many buildings and industrial facilities were hit. Another attack was on Kharkiv. Zelensky announced that 5 people had been killed there. You could sense some helplessness in his tone.
Necessary aid is being provided to every injured person, but this is not enough. Everyone must realize this. Kharkiv needs an adequate number of air defense systems. Sumy region needs it. Chernihiv region and all our other regions suffering from Russian terror need it.
So the tide is clearly turning, which is why Zelensky is exploring alternatives. It is a big climb down, though, because not very long ago, Ukraine was quite upset with India. You may remember what their foreign minister said in 2022. In fact, let me quote what he said. When India purchases Russian crude oil at a discount, they have to understand that the discount has to be paid by Ukrainian blood. Every barrel of Russian crude that India gets has a good portion of Ukrainian blood in it. That was Dmytro Kuleba in 2022, Ukraine's foreign minister. And their position was not too bad then, in 2022. A successful Ukrainian counteroffensive was in the works. The sanctions on Russia were piling up, so Kiev was a bit bolder then. But now it's very different. Some $60 billion of aid is stuck in the US Congress. European nations are battling a financial decline. So guess what this very same foreign minister is now doing? He's traveling to India. Again, we do not have a date yet, but reports say he'll arrive later this month, and this is big. India has not hosted top Ukrainian officials since the war began. So if Kuleba comes, it will be a first. And his agenda is quite clear: to lobby for India's support in the peace talks, to see if India can play peacemaker. But will New Delhi play along? More importantly, should India wade into this war? India's position has been clear and consistent. Prime Minister Modi has said that this is not the era for war. At the same time, India has refused to gang up with the West against Russia. Before speaking to Zelensky, Modi also spoke to Putin. He congratulated him on his re-election. He promised to strengthen relations and got an invitation to visit Russia. So Prime Minister Modi has an open invite to both Ukraine and Russia. How many leaders can say that? A handful at most. So New Delhi is well placed to mediate a settlement, and it has the chops. Just a few months ago at the G20, India overcame differences over Ukraine to get a joint statement. So India can engage in quiet, constructive diplomacy. Unlike some in the West who are given to high-decibel, jet-setting mediation efforts, India can play a role. But India must read the room first to see how sincere all sides are, especially Ukraine. They are on the back foot and in no position to dictate the outcome. Russia has spent millions of dollars and lost hundreds of soldiers in this war. They finally seem to have an upper hand, so you cannot expect Putin to just withdraw and cease fire. Zelensky will have to make concessions. If not, these trips and appeals to India are pointless.